Okay, I'm gonna try and make some nettle syrup right quick, and I'm running low on some that I made earlier back in May. Notice I'm showing the label. Labeling is very important when you're making pretty much anything and you're storing it for a long time, so that you know what it is and you know when you made it and you know what's in it. And this is nettle syrup made from stinging nettle. And nettle it's just a very beneficial plant. I mean, it's edible, first of all. It tastes good. It's medicinal. It's got tons and tons of medicinal values, and it's also utilitarian. You can make fabric out of it. You can make cordage out of it. It's just a really good plant. And for me personally, I used to suffer from allergies and asthma when I was younger, and since I started, eating and taking nettles and making nettle tinctures and things like that, those symptoms and that malaise has all but pretty much disappeared. So, and I often give it to help supplement my daughter as well. But of course, I'm not going to give her a tincture, which is basically a herbal infusion where the menstruum or the menses, or the water, the liquid, is either brandy or vodka. So here's a bag of nettles that I've had, and I labeled it, and this is from 2015. I'm noting that because you don't want to. Your herbs have a shelf life, so they can get stale over time and lose their constituency or their power. So this is about 3 years ago, almost exactly, 2015. So I need to use these up. Otherwise, they can go in a compost pile or something like that. So I'm going to need about, for the amount that I'm going to make for this syrup, I'm going to need 2 cups. I'm going to use 3 cups of water and then 2 cups of the nettle here. Cool. I've got some left over. I'll probably make some tincture out of this later. So there's the nettle leaves, and these are harvested 3 years ago. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put these in a pot and put 3 cups of water and bring that to a boil. Okay, when this comes to a boil, then you'll want to cover it with a lid, and that'll help keep the constituents and the oils and everything back into the water. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this down and simmer it. Let it simmer for about 20 minutes, and then we should be all good. All right, cool. Turn this off. This is about done. I'm going to let this steep for about 10 to 20 minutes, and then we're going to strain it out and separate the liquid, which is now technically a decoction, which is a strong infusion, which is basically a strong tea. We're going to strain out the plant matter from the liquid, and then we're going to use the liquid as the base for the syrup. So what we have here is we have the nettles all kind of boiled down, and we're going to strain them out. There's many different ways you can do that. I'm using a French press. You can take cheesecloth or any sort of absorbent cloth and squeeze it out once the decoction is cool to the touch. Some people have other contraptions that they squeeze and you can twist it like a vice, and it squeezes out out of juice from it. So many different ways you can do this. I'm just using a French press because it's easier. That in there is really thick. So I'll go ahead and rinse this out because we'll need this in a little bit. So I'm going to take the French press cap. And then it's best to use a French press that you don't use coffee with. So you can keep one for coffee and one for herbal remedies. So just slowly just press this down. And what that will do is that'll yield us one cup, and I think we can get another cup, so it'll yield us our 2 cups that we need for this recipe. Now, squeeze this more. Alright, so we've got 1 cup here of the decoction, which is basically an intense tea or infusion. And that's better used, decoctions are better used for harder materials like bark, roots, seeds. Because the process is a little longer and it's a little bit harder. But we want to start with a strong decoction for this recipe for our syrup. So hopefully we can get another cup out of this. And we're just shy, but I think we'll be alright. Let's add a little bit of water. We'll be just fine for even ratio. But we got pretty much a lot in here. There we go. Yeah, so we were able to yield approximately 2 cups. So this is our decoction of nettle juice, basically. And so we're going to add this to the pan, and we're going to add our sweetener. Alright, so the next step is going to talk about our sweeteners. So I'm going to use honey for this syrup. This is actually dried and granulated honey that you can get from health food stores, co-ops, and that. Or you can use refined sugar. The ratio that I'm going to use is basically 2 to 1. I'm going to do 2 to 1.5. So this is approximately 2 cups of decoction or tea or liquid. 2 cups of this, and then 1.5 cups of our sweetener. All right. Traditionally, it'd be a 2 to 1. So it'd be 2 liquid and 1 sweetener. So, or you can add more, or it could be 1 to 1, but it tends to be too sweet if you do 1 to 1. I'm going to split hairs and do 1.5. So I'm going to need, this is 2 cups of our decoction here, of our nettle decoction, and I'm going to do a cup of honey. Or I could do a cup of the granulated honey, or I could do a cup of sugar. Alright, so I'm going to pour my honey into my measuring cup here, and I just want a cup there, and then I'll measure a cup. I measure another 1/2 cup. Now, honey is a great preservative for your syrup, or just in general. So once I'm using honey because it's a little bit better for you than refined sugar, and then it's also a good preservative, and it'll make the herbal syrup last longer without spoiling. Alright, so I've got 1.5 cups of honey here, using 2 separate containers there. And then just as a small note tidbit, this is my honey container, and I tend to use a lot of it, and so what I have here is I have some waxed paper as a guard between the bottle and the cap here, so that this doesn't stick and it's easy to get it on and off. So just as a side note, you might want to, if you use a lot of honey, you might want to do the same thing with some parchment or some wax paper. Alright, so I have the decoction that we've strained, 2 cups of this on medium heat, and I'm going to add our honey Now the thing about the honey is you don't want the honey to boil. Just want this to simmer and heat up, basically dissolve. Because if it boils, the natural enzymes and some of the preservative attributes and health benefits of the honey will go away. So it's best to just heat it up till it dissolves. So that was our half cup. Now I'm going to add our full cup. I just want to stir this around. And again, I don't want this to come to a boil, so I want to keep a good eye on this. I just want this to just slowly heat up and dissolve the honey. Now if you're using sugar, you can let it simmer and reduce down to the level of thickness that you want. So honey is a bit of a commodity, so I'm not going to use that much honey to get it that thick. Okay, so while the honey is dissolving in our decoction, I'm going to go ahead and prep our container. And we got a couple of containers here, you know, just a jar or, you know, whatever container you want. But if you're going to use glass, it's best to sterilize them, boil them for a while, let them sit out, and then pour in your concoction. I have these brown bottles. They come in blue, they come in brown. They protect against UV lights that can help break down your medicines or your herbal remedies. So the most important thing is to make sure that you label your stuff, because if you don't, you think you'll remember and you end up not remembering what it is, and it's just, it can be a waste. So what you can do is you can take a Sharpie and some masking tape, and I go ahead and I write on the tape. So for this, I'm just going to put Stinging Nettle Syrup. And then I usually put like with honey as a reminder of what's in it, and then the date, or at least the month and the year. That's about it. So it just makes it easy to write it on here. Then you can peel it off and wrap it around the bottle. So just take this here. Take the bottle here. And just wrap it like that. And then you can rip or cut that off. And there's already labeled, you don't have to worry about it. And then as far as tape is concerned, here's a tip. You can just fold the tape down so that you don't have to search for it again when you need it. Alright, so we have, we're ready to bottle our syrup. And I've let this cool down a bit. And I've got my jars here. And I've already got them labeled, that's very important. And then I have the funnel, and I'm placing it into to another plate or bowl to mitigate any messes that might happen, right? So I'm going to take this here, and just gently just pour this in here. There we go. So really nothing to explain here other than you're just transferring it to a sterilized bottle. And they're blued or browned, and that helps with the shelf life of your herbal medicinal concoctions and whatnot, potions and things. So just take that here, set that aside, and then just do the other one. Any old jar will do though. I mean, you don't have to, you know, make do with what you have. You know, any old jar will do. You can order these sorts of things online in bulk. Most herbal shops, new age shops will have such things. Co-ops will have such things. So But any old jar will do. Old peanut butter jar will be just fine. So just keep it in a cool, dark place. And if it's medicinal, keep it in your medicine cabinet. Why not? So for the most part, here we have it. And it's really quick and simple. Not that difficult to make herbal syrups. And the herbal syrup that you're making is going to be based on whatever plant material that you're going to be using, right? Yeah. You could do it with dandelion. You could do it with mints. You could do it with pretty much any herbal plant that you'd like. So at any rate, all it is you're making a very strong tea, and 2 parts of a strong tea to 1 part of your sweetener. That's either sugar or honey. Honey is better because it has preservative properties, and it's probably better for you than refined sugar. So you can also use rough sugar or the brown sugars, the rough sugar, the raw sugar as well, and there's granulated honey that you can use. So that's really how you make herbal syrup.